Kody in the loop on what's going on?
No, Maddie doesn't really even tell him that she's pregnant. He'll find out.
Wow, how long has it been since they've spoken?
It's probably been 2 or 3 years.
Maddie Brown welcomed her fourth baby after choosing not to tell Kody she was pregnant. Then, Janelle revealed the silence had lasted 2 or 3 years. But this wasn't one missed announcement. What happened before it explains everything. At first, the situation sounds like a secret pregnancy designed to punish Kody. That version would certainly create an easy villain and an instant family scandal. The verified timeline tells a more complicated and much more painful story. Maddie didn't hide her fourth child from the public forever. She announced the pregnancy on social media in September 2024. She and her husband, Kody Brush, were already raising 3 children together. Their son, Axel, was followed by daughters Evie and Josephine. Baby number 4 would make their busy North Carolina household even larger. Maddie later welcomed Emilia Estelle Brush on March 14, 2025. She publicly celebrated Emilia's arrival and described her as worth the wait. However, the sister wives' footage had been recorded before that happy announcement. Viewers were watching an earlier moment when the pregnancy was still unfolding privately. That delayed television timeline matters. Without it, you might assume Kody discovered an existing grandchild through television. What Janelle actually discussed was Maddie's decision not to tell him personally about the pregnancy. When someone asked whether Kody knew, Janelle didn't hesitate or create an excuse. She said Maddie didn't really tell him she was pregnant. Then she added a sentence that changed the entire meaning. Kody would find out. That answer didn't sound like a temporary delay before a planned family call. It sounded like personal communication between father and daughter had stopped functioning. Janelle then estimated they hadn't spoken for 2 or 3 years. She didn't provide an exact final call date, so the timeline remains an estimate. Still, even the lower end represents far more than one forgotten conversation. Holidays, birthdays, family changes, and ordinary updates had apparently passed without regular contact. By the time Emilia was coming, silence wasn't a dramatic new punishment. It had become the established relationship. There was another detail that complicates the most sensational interpretation. Christine also said Maddie's pregnancy surprised her. She explained that Maddie often keeps pregnancies quiet at first. Maddie doesn't advertise every symptom, craving, or difficult day to relatives. That means Kody wasn't necessarily the only person who learned later than expected. But there's an important difference. Christine remained connected enough to join the family celebration. Kody wasn't simply late to the announcement. According to Janelle, he existed outside Maddie's normal communication circle. The pregnancy also arrived during an emotionally difficult chapter for the family. Maddie's original due date fell near the first anniversary of Garrison's death. Family members described that timing as deeply emotional and strangely full circle. Emilia ultimately arrived several days later. That context made the pregnancy more than an ordinary piece of family news. It carried grief, hope, and the arrival of a new generation together. Yet Kody still wasn't someone Maddie chose to contact directly. So why had the relationship reached that point? The clearest answer begins with another pregnancy. Baby number 4 didn't create this pattern. Baby number 3 had already exposed it. During an earlier sister-wives conversation, Kody asked Janelle a revealing question. Why hadn't Maddie called him to say she was having another baby? Janelle's response moved the issue beyond Maddie alone. She told Kody that the children felt very estranged from him. It wasn't framed as one daughter's sudden grudge. Janelle described a broader fracture between Kody and several adult children. Then, Janelle explained Maddie's specific complaint. Maddie believed Kody hadn't shown much interest in her children. Janelle said he hadn't visited them since Evie was born. At that point, Evie was already 3 years old. Think about how much changes during those first 3 years. A newborn becomes a walking, talking child with preferences and memories. From Maddie's perspective, another pregnancy announcement couldn't replace years of missing involvement. Her reported reasoning was blunt. Why tell him about another baby when he showed limited interest in the others? That wasn't proof that Kody felt nothing for his grandchildren. Feelings can't be measured through a television scene. But relationships aren't experienced through hidden feelings. They're experienced through calls, visits, attention, and reliable effort. If those actions disappear, affection becomes impossible for the other person to see. Kody didn't accept Janelle's explanation as a complete answer. He said Maddie spoke as though he had done something evil. He also admitted that he felt like he was missing something. Later, he blamed jealousy and gossip for damaging their relationship. From his perspective, family members were sharing stories, choosing sides, and creating conclusions about him. That interpretation placed the estrangement inside the wider collapse of the Brown family. And that wider collapse can't be ignored. Christine left her marriage to Kody first. Janelle later confirmed their separation, and Miri's marriage also ended. Years of disagreements moved from private conversations into televised confessionals. Adult children watched their mothers struggle. Parents heard their children's criticism through episodes, interviews, and other relatives. Every new statement could reopen an older wound. In that environment, even a simple telephone call carried the weight of the entire family breakup. But distance alone doesn't explain everything. Maddie lived in North Carolina while Kody remained far away in Arizona. Cross-country visits require planning, money, and time. That practical barrier deserves acknowledgement. Still, geography doesn't prevent regular calls or messages. It also doesn't explain why both sides described communication as essentially broken. The physical distance may have made the fracture easier to maintain. It didn't create the entire fracture by itself. Janelle and Kody also gave opposing accounts about who withdrew first. Janelle said Kody had effectively cut off communication with Maddie and Caleb as the family dissolved. She said he didn't visit, didn't call, and barely knew their children. Her description placed responsibility on a father who stopped showing up consistently. Kody rejected that version. He said he hadn't cut off Maddie. According to him, she cut off communication with him. He also claimed their conversations felt like attempts to collect gossip. His description placed responsibility on a daughter who no longer approached him in good faith. Those two accounts can't both explain every detail perfectly. They can, however, reveal how estrangement sustains itself. One person believes you stopped showing up. The other believes you stopped trusting me. Each person waits for the other to admit fault first. Months become years. Then a pregnancy arrives, and nobody knows who should make the call. So here's the uncomfortable question. If a father feels rejected, should he keep reaching out anyway? Or does continued rejection eventually justify stepping back? Now reverse it. If an adult daughter feels repeatedly disappointed, must she keep offering access because he's her father? There isn't an easy answer. But there's a measurable difference between one unsuccessful call and a consistent pattern of effort. The strongest evidence about Maddie's decision came from Maddie herself. In November 2024, she discussed no contact on her podcast. She said she had no relationship with certain relatives because of things that happened. When speaking about Kody, she focused on boundaries. She alleged that he didn't respect them and expected interactions to follow his rules. Maddie also described herself as direct. If someone asks what she thinks, she'll give an honest answer. According to Maddie, that honesty created conflict with Kody. She said he became angry or defensive when she challenged his version of events. She described it as him disliking a mirror being held up. That language explains why ordinary communication may have felt exhausting rather than healing. Notice what Maddie didn't say. She didn't publicly reduce the entire estrangement to one missed birthday. She didn't claim the fourth pregnancy caused their separation. She described a repeated dynamic involving anger, boundaries, and disagreement. Her explanation makes the baby announcement look like a consequence. It wasn't the original cause. This is where the story becomes less comfortable for viewers seeking a simple villain. A boundary can be necessary and still hurt everyone involved. No contact may bring peace to the person setting it. It can also eliminate opportunities for repair. Repeated outreach may show love and persistence. It can also feel invasive when someone has clearly requested distance. The moral answer depends on behavior the audience hasn't personally witnessed. There's also a difference between privacy and punishment. Privacy limits information because someone wants control over a personal moment. Punishment withholds information mainly to cause pain. Nothing Maddie publicly said proves that hurting Kody was her goal. Her comments centered on peace, boundaries, and consistent behavior. That doesn't erase the pain he may have felt. It does change how the decision should be described. Viewers can criticize the choice without inventing revenge. They can also support Maddie's boundary without claiming Kody felt nothing. The honest version allows two realities. She could protect her peace, and he could still grieve what he had missed. That means we shouldn't invent a secret confrontation behind Emilia's birth. There's no verified hospital argument, angry voicemail, or hidden family ambush. There's also no proof that Janelle ordered Maddie to exclude Kody. The known facts are quieter. Maddie and Kody had stopped speaking regularly. Maddie didn't personally share her pregnancy news. Janelle respected her adult daughter's decision and explained the existing distance. Janelle's calm delivery made the revelation more striking. She wasn't describing a shocking fight from the previous evening. She spoke as though everyone close to Maddie already understood the arrangement. Kody would learn somehow, but Maddie wouldn't be the messenger. That casual certainty showed how completely the family had adjusted to separation. Now compare that silence with Maddie's wedding. In 2016, Kody officiated when Maddie married Caleb. He wasn't a distant name appearing in a family tree. He stood inside one of the biggest moments of her life. The ceremony placed him at the center of her transition into adulthood. Years later, another life-changing moment arrived, and he wasn't receiving a personal call. That before and after contrast carries more emotional weight than any invented argument. A daughter once trusted her father to lead her wedding ceremony. Later, she didn't trust the relationship enough to share a pregnancy directly. Something changed between those two moments. The public record shows growing family conflict, limited contact, competing accusations, and Maddie's boundary concerns. It doesn't reveal one single event that explains everything. You can also understand why Janelle refused to force the issue. Maddie wasn't a child needing parental permission. She was a married mother deciding who could enter her family's emotional space. Janelle could disagree, encourage reconciliation, or pass along information. But taking control would repeat the same boundary problem Maddie publicly described. Respecting her choice didn't automatically mean celebrating the estrangement. That distinction matters because online discussions often turn support into conspiracy. Janelle supported Maddie, so some viewers may assume she manipulated Maddie against Kody. There's no verified evidence proving that claim. Other viewers may assume Kody never cared about Maddie or her children. His lack of consistent contact supports criticism, but it doesn't prove his private emotions. Responsible commentary must separate visible behavior from unknowable motives. What can be judged is the pattern each person described. Janelle emphasized missed visits and calls. Maddie emphasized boundaries, anger, and consistency. Kody emphasized gossip, rejection, and divided loyalties. All three accounts point toward the same basic reality. Trust had collapsed long before baby number 4 arrived. That is the real payoff behind Janelle's revelation. Kody didn't merely miss an announcement. He had become disconnected enough that Maddie no longer treated personal news as something she owed him. Whether you agree with that decision depends on how you view family obligation. Some people believe a parent remains entitled to major updates despite conflict. Others believe access must follow respect and effort. But parenthood and grandparenthood aren't titles that maintain themselves. A title creates a connection. Repeated action creates a relationship. If Maddie experienced years without those actions, her decision becomes understandable. If Kody experienced repeated rejection while trying to reconnect, his frustration also becomes understandable. The unresolved issue is which pattern happened consistently when cameras weren't present. Then the story took an unexpected turn. The silence wasn't necessarily permanent. During the Sister Wives season that followed, Maddie became emotional while discussing her father. She acknowledged anger, disappointment, and her own part in the situation. She also admitted something that complicates the image of a daughter who feels nothing. She still wanted her father to show up. She still understood the emotional pull of reconciliation. Kody also said he wanted better relationships with his children. He described heartbreak and claimed he didn't know how to solve the impasse. However, he believed healing could happen only on his children's terms. Once again, both sides described wanting connection while objecting to the conditions surrounding it. The desire existed. Agreement didn't. Later, Janelle revealed that Kody had recently reached out to Maddie. That detail changed the ending again. Maddie didn't announce that everything was repaired. She didn't erase the years of silence with one conversation. Instead, she said forgiveness could be possible. She remained open to reconciliation, forgiveness, and closure. Then she named her condition. Kody would need to demonstrate a pattern of consistency before fully returning to their lives. Not one emotional speech, not one holiday message, not one apology filmed for television. A pattern requires repeated behavior over time, especially when nobody is applauding it. That condition directly answers the pregnancy mystery. Maddie apparently didn't view biological connection as enough. She wanted dependable involvement. The 4th baby's arrival didn't automatically reset the relationship. Emilia couldn't repair an adult conflict simply by being born. Reconciliation would require work from the people carrying the history. Kody's public position also left a door open, but his framing differed. He said his children would always be his children. He described holding out a hand while expecting them to come through the door. He also made clear that repairing those relationships wouldn't require him to abandon Robin. That qualification showed how deeply the wider family conflict remained attached to every attempted repair. So both sides described open doors. Maddie's door required consistency from Kody. Kody's door required his children to approach him without demanding changes he rejected. They're not identical invitations. In fact, they may point in opposite directions. Each person can honestly claim openness while waiting for the other person to move first. That is how 2 or 3 years of silence can continue. Nobody has to say, "I never want you again." They only need incompatible conditions for the next conversation. One waits for accountability, the other waits for acceptance. Both feel wounded. Both feel misunderstood. And every missed milestone becomes new evidence supporting their original position. Maddie's comments in 2026 added another layer, though they weren't solely about Kody. She described her childhood as chaotic and said she hadn't understood what peace felt like. She contrasted that upbringing with the quieter, intentional home she built alongside Caleb. She discussed motherhood, homeschooling, their homestead, and choosing calm for her family. Those comments shouldn't be twisted into a direct accusation she didn't make. She was reflecting on her wider childhood and current values. Still, they help explain why peace now appears central to her decisions. For Maddie, family closeness may not be worth preserving at any cost. She seems to measure relationships by whether they support the stable life she's deliberately building. And this is where Emilia's birth becomes symbolically important without becoming responsible for the conflict. She entered a family already carrying years of unresolved pain. Her arrival brought joy, not reconciliation. She wasn't a bargaining chip, a messenger, or a solution. The adults remained responsible for deciding what happened next. Calling this a secret baby, therefore, misses the deeper truth. Maddie shared her pregnancy publicly. Kody simply wasn't part of the personal sharing. That difference turns a sensational headline into a painful relationship test. The real question isn't how Kody eventually learned. It's why his daughter no longer believed she should be the one telling him. Janelle's estimate supplies the answer scale. 2 or 3 years can't be blamed on one misunderstanding. That amount of time contains countless chances to call, visit, apologize, listen, or try again. It also contains countless chances for outreach to fail, boundaries to harden, and resentment to grow. The cameras captured only fragments of that process. The most accurate conclusion sits between two extreme versions. Maddie didn't secretly erase Kody from Emilia's existence forever. She also didn't casually forget to make a joyful telephone call. She made a deliberate choice within an established no-contact relationship. Her public explanation connected that distance to boundaries and repeated disappointment. At the same time, the latest verified update leaves room for change. Kody reached out. Maddie said forgiveness and reconciliation were possible. No public statement has confirmed a fully restored father-daughter relationship. The door remains conditional, not sealed. What happens next depends less on another dramatic conversation and more on quiet consistency afterward. That brings everything back to the sentence Janelle delivered so calmly. Kody would find out. He did, just as millions of viewers eventually did. But finding out about a pregnancy isn't the same as being included in a daughter's life. Information can travel through relatives, social media, and television. Trust can't. So where do you draw the line? Should an adult daughter always tell her father about a pregnancy regardless of their history? Or should a parent rebuild trust before expecting access to grandchildren and major milestones? And if both Maddie and Kody claim they want healing, who must make the first consistent move? Share your answer. Because this conflict isn't really about one announcement. It's about whether family titles guarantee access after trust has disappeared. Subscribe if you want more factual sister wives breakdowns that separate verified events from speculation. Next, watch the analysis of Maddie's chaotic childhood comments and what they reveal about the next Brown generation.